Well, we are here today talking with Astraios host and regular Christopher Curtis. It's nice to have you with us here today, Christopher. Thank you. So, would you mind sharing with everyone a little bit about your background in music and how you started singing? Certainly, yeah, actually, when I was growing up, they sometimes called us the Von Curtis family singers because music definitely ran in the family, and we began performing as a family from when I was very small. Both of my parents have master's degrees in sacred music and did church music and other things for many years, and yes, from the time that I was probably 6 years old, we would perform as a family at various nursing homes, retirement centers, at church, things like that. And then growing up, one parent or the other of mine always had a choir or multiple choirs, and so I sang in those choirs my entire life until I went off to college. And when I went off to college, I started out as a vocal performance major for a year, and even when I switched to philosophy, I continued studying voice my whole time in college. Went and competed at Nats competitions and things like that. But I kind of left a lot of that behind me for a while, and then when I started doing theater and musicals and things like that again, a little later on in my life, I relied upon a lot of that old training that I'd had from college and from my parents and all the years before. Are there other instruments that you've played? I have played many other instruments, all of them poorly. I took around 6 years of piano, so that's certainly where I had the most experience, but I'm still not very accomplished there. I took a couple of years of violin, I did percussion for a year, and then when I was in high school, the band, it was a small high school, and the band was even smaller. My sophomore year, there were a dozen of us. And they already had 2 percussionists, and so the band director was like, "Would you like to play tuba?" I don't know. So as a sophomore, I began playing the tuba and marching with the sousaphone. And then by my senior year, the band had grown, and so we started a jazz band in the spring, and I played bass trombone, which I haven't touched in 25 years. So, well, if you could play another instrument, what would that be? I mostly wished I played the instruments that I have played better. I wish that I had more patience as a kid for practicing the piano, because I love the piano and I love playing things that I know. But I would get frustrated with the practice in order to get to the point where you could play something. And the violin also, I've always loved the stringed instruments, and that would be really neat to say I was able to do.
Well, you may not have pursued a career as an instrumentalist, but you have been a performer as an actor and a vocalist quite successfully for many years. Could you tell us a bit about maybe a particular performance that was rewarding or memorable?
I remember one of the first musicals that when I started doing theater again, that I performed was here in Dallas, a production with Lyric Stage of 1776. And that musical takes place, it's the Continental Congress, you know, before they write the Declaration of Independence. And it's that summer of 1776, and it's all just hot. But the show opens with the whole Congress seated, and the way that our production did it, I was right in the middle of the stage, right down center, and we all have our little desks and stuff where we're like that, and they have these big wooden barn doors that we were seated behind, that, you know, the orchestra would play the overture, and then barn doors would open and we'd start the first song and singing and stuff. And every night I was seated right there behind these barn doors, just a few feet from the orchestra pit, and getting to hear that full 40-piece orchestra playing this wonderful music, and knowing that they were accompanying me, that I was going to get to sing with that, not with some digital track or something like that. That we were all working together to create this. Like it brought tears to my eyes, you know, every night. Just the honor of being a part of that. It was really very special. And then there have been plenty of other roles that are memorable for a variety of reasons, musical and otherwise. But there was something about that. I will always hold that memory very close to my heart. So we like people to spill the tea a little bit. What's something interesting that's happened on stage or in a performance? So when there is stage fighting, we normally have a fight call right before the show, and that's when everybody comes out on the stage. You get your swords or your sticks or whatever you're fighting with, or, you know, fisticuffs, and you go through all of the motions of the fight, the choreography of the fight, right before you start the show, just to make sure that, you know, it may have been the better part of a week since, you know, you did the show the last weekend and you're coming back, or even if you just did it the night before. You just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, because if you're imitating violence, you want to make sure that it's not actually violent to the people involved. And we were doing the fight call for Romeo and Juliet, and of course there's a lot of sword fighting in Romeo and Juliet, and we had one of our actors not remember his choreography correctly, and he got a sword to the face, and it cut right there over his eye. Luckily his eye was fine, but he had a wicked looking scar, just like Scar the Lion, like it goes right over the eye and into the cheekbone there. I once got a sword inside my mouth. Maybe I should have led with that. It was one that was not pointed. It had a blunted end, so it didn't cut anything, but boy, it hurt. These were non-professional productions, by the way. The professional productions that I was a part of later in my career didn't have those problems. Having trouble remembering which show it was. We were doing a Shakespeare production outside. We were performing the Shakespeare outside, and a presumably houseless person walked right up next to the stage and asked for directions to a sandwich shop, which an actor on stage then proceeded to give him. Because what else are you gonna do? He stayed in character. I don't know that he said it in verse, but he did. Oh, pretty stranger, if you proceed this direction, you'll find it just down the lane to your left. Something like that. But you just never know. So what is it that you do when you're not hosting Astraios concerts or performing on stage? So currently, I am working in a church. I am the choir director, the adult choir director, a children's choir director, office manager, and website developer for First United Methodist Church in Weatherford, Oklahoma. So it's a lot of different hats, but as somebody said the other day, it's like, just go talk to the guy that does everything. That's who you need to talk to. Is there a common misperception that people have about your profession? A common question, again, it's like, or inquiry of some kind. Well, what have you done that I've seen? Probably nothing. I've done a few ads here and there, but on television, but they're not things that most people would remember. They weren't national, but you can still do professional work in local theaters and in other ways that are not the same as going out to Hollywood and having your name on IMDb somewhere. And there are people that just assume that, you want to get rich and famous and do the thing. That's not what I'm. That's not what I'm going for.